Dr. Marcus Reed stood before the alien delegation, their iridescent skin reflecting the soft light of the conference room. These visitors from Proxima Centauri had traveled 4 light years to understand one simple question. How had humans, physically weaker than many Earth species, come to dominate their planet and now reach for the stars? The answer, Marcus explained, pointing to the holographic human brain rotating above the table, lies here. The aliens leaned forward, their 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Our neural density and connectivity patterns are unique, Marcus continued. While your species evolved toward physical specialization, humans developed cognitive flexibility. Captain Teller, standing at the back of the room, remembered the first contact. The aliens had been shocked at how quickly humans adapted to their presence. Within months, humans had reverse-engineered aspects of their technology. Within a year, improvements had been suggested. Our brain's neocortex allows us to simulate complex scenarios, Marcus said. We can imagine futures that don't exist yet and work toward them. We can cooperate in groups numbering in the millions, all coordinated by shared ideas. The aliens' translator buzzed with their questions. They couldn't comprehend how a species with such short lifespans could accumulate so much knowledge. We invented something remarkable. Marcus smiled. Written language. Information outlives individuals. Each generation stands on the shoulders of all previous knowledge. The lead alien, Commander Core, raised an appendage. But many species on your planet have large brains. Dolphins, elephants. Why did they not achieve dominance? Marcus nodded. An excellent question. Our opposable thumbs and bipedal stance freed our hands to manipulate the environment. Our brains could imagine tools, and our hands could create them. Core seemed troubled. Your species' rapid adaptation is concerning. You went from simple agriculture to space travel in merely 12,000 years. We required 50,000. There's more, Marcus continued. Humans possess something we call cognitive empathy. We can model other minds within our own. We can predict behaviors, understand motivations, and even imagine perspectives we've never experienced. On the display, brain scans showed mirror neurons firing as humans observed others performing tasks. This adaptation allowed us to understand prey animals, predators, and eventually each other with unprecedented accuracy. We could coordinate hunts, form complex societies, and ultimately understand you. Core's skin darkened, the equivalent of a frown. And if you decided we were a threat, Captain Teller stepped forward. Then we would try to understand you better. The same adaptability that makes us dangerous makes us excellent allies. We don't just survive. We solve problems in ways no one has imagined before. As the delegation filed out, Teller overheard one alien whisper to another, "No wonder they advanced so quickly. Their entire species thinks like predators, but cooperates like hive insects." Teller smiled. They were beginning to understand. But they hadn't grasped humanity's most dangerous quality yet. Humans didn't just adapt to environments. They transformed them. And now, with the vastness of space before them, humanity's ability to reshape reality was about to be tested on a cosmic scale. The alien observation post orbited Earth at a safe distance, documenting the peculiar behavior of humans. Senior observer Larn had spent decades studying these creatures, yet they still confounded him. "Look at this," Larn said, gesturing to a holographic display, showing a human settlement in the Martian highlands. 20 years ago, this was barren rock. Now they've created a self-sustaining ecosystem. His assistant, Rev, studied the data. "I don't understand their motivation. They had a perfectly habitable planet. Why risk everything to live in a hostile environment?" Larn zoomed out, revealing dozens of similar settlements across the red planet. That's what makes humans unique. They're never satisfied with enough. The observation chamber filled with historical footage. Humans creating fire, developing agriculture, building cities, harnessing electricity, splitting atoms, decoding DNA, uploading consciousness. Other intelligent species reach equilibrium, Larn explained. They find a sustainable relationship with their environment and maintain it for millennia. Humans never stop pushing boundaries. Mrev watched as the timeline accelerated, showing the rapid technological evolution humans had undergone in just a few centuries. It seems chaotic, inefficient. Exactly, Larn exclaimed. Their innovation isn't centrally planned. They have this system called competition. Multiple humans or groups work on the same problem simultaneously, often duplicating efforts. Wasteful, Rev commented. Yet extraordinarily effective, Larn countered. Because each approach is slightly different. Some fail, but others succeed in unexpected ways. They call it parallel processing. Their greatest advantage is their diversity of thought. The display shifted to show human academic journals, patent offices, startup companies, and research labs. They've institutionalized innovation, Larn continued, created entire systems to capture and reward new ideas. Their economy is built on constant change, not stability. Mreb's expression darkened. The Council believes this makes them dangerous. Species that expand indefinitely eventually collapse. Perhaps, Larn admitted, but they've survived challenges that should have destroyed them. Look at their climate crisis of the 21st century. Any rational analysis would have predicted their extinction. Instead, they transformed their entire global economy in a single generation. The display showed the Great Transition, the dismantling of fossil fuel infrastructure, the atmospheric carbon capture projects, the floating cities that adapted to rising sea levels. They turned an existential threat into a catalyst for advancement, Larn said. Their psychology is unique. They're actually stimulated by problems. Challenges don't discourage them. They energize them. Mrev studied the data with growing concern. Their resource consumption is still enormous. Yes, but notice the pattern. Larn highlighted a graph. Each technological revolution initially increases resource use, then fundamentally changes how they interact with their environment. They don't just consume resources, they transform them into entirely new forms. The display showed asteroid mining operations in the belt. That's why the Council fears them, Larn said quietly. Other species expand until they find balance. Humans redefine what balance means. They don't adapt to limitations. They overcome them. Mrev contemplated this troubling insight. Then what will stop them? Larn gazed at the blue-green planet below. That's what we're here to discover. Because a species that can reinvent itself and its environment again and again may never stop expanding. Admiral Jake Foster stood at the viewport of the orbital station, Gaia's Guardian, gazing down at the patchwork of green and brown that covered North America. As head of Earth Restoration Command, he had witnessed both humanity's destructive potential and its capacity for healing. Director Wilson has arrived, sir, his aide announced. Dr. Emily Wilson entered, her weathered face telling the story of decades spent in the field. As director of the Global Biodiversity Initiative, she had cataloged the wounds humanity had inflicted upon the Earth, as well as their efforts to heal them. The northern forests are showing strong recovery, Emily said without preamble, joining him at the viewport. Satellite data confirms a 42% increase in biomass since the restoration accords. Jake nodded. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it possible. 3 centuries of industrialization nearly killed this planet. The display shifted to historical footage. Burning rainforests, dead coral reefs, islands of plastic waste, sprawling urban centers consuming fertile land. The 6th extinction, they had called it. A planetary tragedy authored by a single species. We came so close to the edge, Emily murmured. Jake swiped through more recent images. Engineered microbes consuming ocean plastics, restored wetlands filtered by cloned ancient plants, megafauna returning to rewilded continents, and green cities designed to function as extensions of natural ecosystems rather than replacements. What changed us? Jake wondered aloud. Why did we finally stop? Emily's expression was contemplative. We didn't just stop. We pivoted. Humans never abandoned power. We redirected. When we finally understood the true cost of our dominance, we applied the same ingenuity that created the problem toward solving it. The display showed the turning point, the great coastal floods of the 2040s, followed by the agricultural collapse of 2051. 500 million climate refugees and a global food crisis had finally shattered humanity's illusion of separation from nature. We thought we were above natural laws, Jake said. We learned the hard way that we were just another species that could engineer its own extinction. Emily nodded. But unlike other species, we could comprehend our impact and deliberately change course. The same intelligence that enabled our dominance gave us the capacity to redefine that dominance. The viewport shifted to the moon, where vast lunar industries had replaced Earth's most destructive manufacturing processes. The orbital solar arrays powering civilization without greenhouse emissions. The carbon-capturing algae blooms in carefully managed ocean zones. We didn't abandon technology, Jake observed. We matured in our application of it. That's humanity's pattern, Emily replied. We push until we break something, then we innovate to fix it, often creating something better in the process. Below them, the eastern seaboard glittered with the bioluminescent markers of coastal restoration zones. Once dead areas were now among the most productive marine habitats on the planet. Our presence will always transform the environment, Emily continued. But transformation doesn't have to mean destruction. We're learning to enhance rather than deplete. Jake considered this. The alien observers still don't trust our intentions. They see our history and assume we'll do the same to other worlds. Emily smiled. They're right to be cautious. Our power remains immense, but they miss something crucial about humans. We learn from our mistakes. Earth isn't just our home, it's our teacher. The lessons we learned here will guide how we approach the stars. As night fell across the continent, the boundary between natural and human-made systems became increasingly difficult to distinguish. Humanity had finally understood a profound truth. True dominance came not from conquest, but from integration. General Alex Morgan walked through the cavernous hall of the Proxima colony, his footsteps echoing on the stone-like substrate that had been grown rather than built. After 3 decades commanding Earth's defense forces, retirement to this fledgling colony had seemed fitting, watching humanity's future unfold on a world circling another star. Quite a view, isn't it? Said Dr. Thomas Rivera, joining him at the transparent dome overlooking the alien landscape. As the colony's chief xenobiologist, Thomas had been instrumental in helping humans adapt to this new world without destroying what made it unique. Sometimes I still can't believe we're here, Alex admitted, watching the red light of Proxima Centauri casting long shadows across the valley. When I was a child, interstellar travel was science fiction. Thomas smiled. Humanity's greatest talent is turning yesterday's fiction into tomorrow's mundane reality. Below them, colonists worked alongside autonomous systems in the agricultural domes. The symbiotic relationship between Earth crops and local microorganisms had been Thomas's breakthrough, allowing humans to grow food without importing an entire Earth ecosystem. The Council of Worlds is meeting next month, Alex said. They're discussing our application for full membership. Thomas raised an eyebrow. Are they still concerned about our expansion? Some species remain wary, Alex acknowledged. They've studied our history and see a pattern of aggressive growth. They fear we'll do to the galaxy what we nearly did to Earth. They're not entirely wrong to worry, Thomas replied. Our drive remains unchanged, but our methods have evolved. The colony's central AI projected a galactic map, highlighting the dozen worlds where humans had established a presence. Unlike earlier colonial powers on Earth, these settlements were carefully integrated with existing ecosystems or built on barren worlds. The traumatic lessons of Earth's ecological crisis had fundamentally altered humanity's approach to expansion. What the Council doesn't fully appreciate, Alex continued, is that humanity is no longer just biological. We've become something broader. The display shifted to show the network of uploaded human consciousnesses inhabiting vast computational substrates throughout the solar system. Others had chosen to merge partly with AI systems, creating hybrid intelligences that could perceive reality in ways purely organic humans could not. Our descendants may not even recognize us, Thomas mused. Some have already transcended biological limitations entirely. Alex nodded. The Council fears we'll consume all available resources, but they're thinking in old paradigms. Posthuman intelligence doesn't expand physically. It grows in complexity and depth. Outside, the colony's children were being taught by both human educators and native guides from one of the local intelligent species, a symbiotic collective of fungal-like organisms that had evolved a distributed consciousness. This exchange of knowledge between radically different intelligences was unprecedented in the galaxy's history. Our greatest export was never our technology, Thomas said. It was our adaptability, our ability to synthesize disparate ideas into new forms. Alex watched as human and alien children played together, inventing games that incorporated elements from both cultures. That may be our true legacy, not conquering the stars, but bridging worlds that would never have connected without us. The colony's long-range sensors detected a new signal, another expedition returning from the galactic core with discoveries that would once again transform humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. We keep pushing outward, Alex observed. It's in our nature. Yes, Thomas agreed, but not just outward in space. We push outward in understanding, in connection, in consciousness itself. The physical expansion is just a side effect of our true journey. As Proxima's light faded, the alien sky revealed a universe filled with possibilities that even humanity's boundless imagination had yet to conceive. Whatever form humanity might take in the millennia to come, their fundamental nature would remain. Explorers, connectors, transformers of themselves and their environment. The future of humanity wasn't just among the stars. It was becoming something the first humans could never have imagined. And the journey was just beginning. Professor David Miller adjusted his old-fashioned glasses as he addressed the graduation ceremony at the Interplanetary Academy on Luna. Before him sat 3,000 students representing over 200 species from across known space. As the foremost human historian specializing in interspecies relations, he had been invited to offer perspective on humanity's complex legacy. Distinguished guests, he began, his voice carrying across the amphitheater carved from lunar bedrock. A century ago, many of your ancestors viewed humans with justifiable fear. We were the unpredictable variable in the galactic equation, a young species wielding technologies beyond our wisdom to control them. Holographic images appeared above the stage. Earth's scared landscapes from the resource wars, the nuclear wastelands, the dead zones in once vibrant oceans. We nearly destroyed ourselves and our homeworld, David continued. Our power outpaced our maturity. Yet that same crisis became our crucible. The images shifted to show Earth's remarkable recovery. The restored Amazon breathing life back into the atmosphere. The reclaimed Sahara now a mosaic of sustainable agriculture and native habitat. The floating cities that turned rising seas from threat to opportunity. What defines humanity isn't our technology, our intelligence, or even our adaptability, David said. What truly defines us is our capacity for both tremendous destruction and extraordinary creation, often simultaneously. In the audience, Ambassador Krell of the Minovian Collective nodded slowly. Their species had been among the first to recognize humanity's unique potential as galactic partners rather than threats. The Anthropocene, the age of human dominance on Earth, taught us that power without responsibility leads to collapse. But responsibility without power is equally futile. The challenge has always been aligning our tremendous capabilities with sustainable purpose. David gestured to the Earth hanging in the black sky visible through the Academy's transparent dome. From this distance, the planet showed no scars, only the blue-green beauty that had nurtured humanity's evolution. For most of our history, we defined progress as dominance over nature. Now we understand that true advancement means integration with the complex systems that sustain us. Our most sophisticated technologies today mimic natural processes rather than override them. The display showed the neural interfaces that connected human minds directly to planetary monitoring systems, allowing individuals to experience the health of ecosystems as extensions of their own bodies. The quantum communication network that united consciousness across vast distances, breaking down the barriers of species and ideology. What makes humans dangerous? Our ability to transform environments rapidly, our relentless innovation, our disregard for tradition when it impedes progress. These same qualities make us valuable allies in facing challenges that transcend any single species. Ambassador Krull rose, their crystalline exoskeleton catching the light. Professor Miller speaks truth. When the hive mind threatened to consume all sentient life in the Orion Spur, it was human unpredictability that found the solution no other species could conceive. David nodded in acknowledgement. Yet we must remain vigilant. The same creativity that solves problems can create new ones we never anticipated. Every solution carries the seed of future challenges. The graduates, human and non-human alike, listened intently as David delivered his final thoughts. The universe doesn't care about our intentions. It responds only to our actions and their consequences. As inheritors of unprecedented power, we have learned, at tremendous cost, that responsibility isn't a burden to be endured. It's the only path to sustainable existence. He gestured toward the stars visible through the dome. As we continue to explore and transform, we carry two opposing truths. We remain dangerous because of our power to change everything we touch, and we remain essential because of our ability to imagine futures no one else can see. David's gaze swept across the diverse gathering. The question isn't whether humanity will leave its mark on the cosmos. We already have. The question is what that mark will be. The answer isn't written in our genes or our history. It's being written right now, in the choices all of us make about how to use the tremendous power we've inherited. As the ceremony concluded, graduates from 100 worlds contemplated the complex species that had emerged from a small blue planet, bringers of both chaos and creation, whose greatest danger and greatest gift remained the same: the power to transform reality itself. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic displays showed the void plague spreading across the Orion Arm. This entropy-accelerating phenomenon had already consumed 3 star systems, leaving nothing but cold, dark matter in its wake. The infection is accelerating, announced High Chancellor Vex, their multiple eye stalks rigid with concern. Our predictive models give us 6 standard months before it reaches the populated core. Representatives from 50 species shifted uncomfortably in their environmental chambers. Most had existed in stable societies for millennia. Evolutionary success achieved through careful planning and risk avoidance. The void plague represented an outside context problem none were equipped to handle. All except one. Mark Reynolds, Earth's ambassador, stood before the council, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays. At 78, he had witnessed humanity overcome crises that should have ended their civilization. "We request emergency authority to address this threat," Mark said, his voice calm despite the stakes. The void plague's propagation patterns suggest it's not a natural phenomenon, but an ancient weapon, one that exploits standard universal constants. Chancellor Vex's translator buzzed with skepticism. "And what does humanity propose? Your species has existed for a fraction of our civilization's lifespans. What could you possibly know that we don't?" Mark's expression remained neutral. "It's precisely because we've existed for such a short time that we understand crisis. Our entire evolutionary and cultural history has been shaped by catastrophe. While your civilization's optimized for stability, ours optimized for survival against impossible odds." The display shifted to historical footage from Earth, cities rebuilding after devastating natural disasters, societies reorganizing after economic collapse, populations recovering from pandemics and war. Humans don't just endure crisis, Mark continued. We're forged by it. The Anthropocene collapse, the resource wars, the consciousness revolution. Each time our civilization faced extinction, we emerged transformed. The Council murmured uneasily. Most member species had evolved risk avoidance strategies. Humanity's comfort with catastrophe seemed almost pathological to them. Dr. Eliza Patel, Earth's leading genophysicist, stepped forward. The void plague works by inverting standard entropic fields. All your solutions try to contain or reverse this process, working against the weapon's design. We propose something different. Her hands manipulated the holographic interface, showing a radical alternative. Instead of fighting the entropy acceleration, we amplify it in controlled bursts, creating what we call firebreak zones. We're essentially fighting fire with fire, setting controlled burns to prevent wildfire spread. The Council erupted in objections. You propose destroying star systems deliberately, demanded the Keladarian representative. This is exactly why many feared admitting humans to the Council. Mark raised his hand for silence. We propose sacrificing uninhabited systems to save populated ones. Yes, it's destructive. Yes, it's wasteful. And yes, it violates conventional wisdom. But conventional approaches will fail against an unconventional threat. He looked around the chamber, meeting alien gazes. This is what humanity brings to the Council. Not superior technology or wisdom, but comfort with desperate measures when facing extinction. We understand that survival sometimes requires terrible choices. A tense silence filled the chamber until Archivist Lore, oldest of the Council members, spoke. In our archives, there are records of an ancient crisis similar to this one. Our ancestors faced it by consensus and deliberation. By the time they agreed on action, 17 worlds had been lost. The archivist's tentacles trembled slightly. Perhaps the humans should lead this response. Chancellor Vex's eye stalks swiveled in surprise. Archivist, our greatest strength, our stability, becomes our greatest weakness in times of rapid change. Lore replied. The humans think differently. They don't see crisis as abnormal, but as inevitable. They prepare not just to endure it, but to use it. Slowly, representatives signaled their assent. Some reluctantly, others with visible relief at passing responsibility to the species that seemed almost designed for catastrophe. As the Council adjourned, Dr. Patel joined Mark at the observation deck. Below, Earth ships were already mobilizing for the desperate mission. Do you think it will work? She asked quietly. Mark watched as the fleet prepared to face an enemy that defied the laws of physics as they understood them. I don't know, but throughout our history, humanity's greatest moments have come when failure seemed certain. We don't just survive crises, we're incomplete without them. 100 years after the Void Plague crisis, Commander James Lee stood aboard the observation deck of the Harmony, humanity's most advanced exploration vessel. Before him stretched the newly discovered Sagittarius star cluster, 20,000 stars untouched by any intelligent species. Beautiful, isn't it? Remarked Dr. Nadia Okafor, the ship's xenoanthropologist. After decades studying humanity's interactions with alien civilizations, she had developed a unique perspective on what made humans both dangerous and essential to the galactic community. Hard to believe we almost didn't make it this far, James replied, remembering the histories of how close Earth had come to self-destruction. Sometimes I wonder if other species are right to be cautious about us. The Harmony's quantum core hummed softly as the ship's integrated consciousness, part AI, part uploaded human minds, processed the vast data streams coming from the star cluster. Unlike the early days of exploration, modern expeditions weren't just about claiming resources, but understanding the complex tapestry of life and potential in each new system. They're cautious with good reason, Nadia acknowledged. But they also recognize what we bring to the galactic community. The Void Plague proved that. James nodded. The desperate firebreak strategy had worked, though at tremendous cost. 5 uninhabited star systems had been sacrificed to contain the entropy weapon. No other species would have attempted such a solution, or succeeded in implementing it. The council meeting is starting. The ship's consciousness informed them. The observation deck transformed into a virtual assembly space where representatives from all known spacefaring civilizations gathered. Unlike the physical council chamber on Centauri Prime, this quantum-entangled communication allowed instantaneous participation, regardless of distance. The topic: humanity's proposal for the Sagittarius Directive, a revolutionary approach to galactic expansion. For most of our history, James began addressing the assembly. Human expansion meant conquest. We moved into new territories, consumed resources, and transformed environments to suit our needs with little regard for what existed before. Images of Earth's colonial past appeared, followed by the ecological disasters of the Anthropocene and the painful lessons humanity had learned. We nearly destroyed ourselves before understanding that true growth isn't about consumption but integration. The Sagittarius Directive proposes a different path, one where exploration enhances rather than exploits. James revealed the plan: a collaborative approach where multiple species would study the cluster together, each bringing unique perspectives and evolutionary wisdom. Development would follow only after comprehensive understanding, with technology deployed to enhance existing planetary processes rather than override them. Chancellor Vexus, still serving after a century, regarded James with compound eyes that had seen humanity prove both their most pessimistic fears and optimistic hopes correct. "Your species has changed," the Chancellor observed. "Once, you would have claimed these stars for yourself." The display showed the hybrid technologies that had emerged from human-alien collaboration. Living architecture that grew rather than being built, consciousness-sharing interfaces that allowed species to directly experience each other's perceptions, regenerative energy systems that enhanced rather than depleted their environments. What makes humans dangerous? Our drive to change everything we touch now serves the greater community, James continued. We're still transformers, but we've learned to transform with rather than against the systems that sustain us. The council deliberated briefly before approving the directive. As the assembly dissolved, James and Nadia returned their attention to the star cluster glittering before them. "Do you think we've finally found balance?" James asked. "Between our nature and our knowledge." Nadia smiled. "Balance isn't a destination. It's a continual adjustment. What makes humanity unique isn't that we've solved the riddle of existence, but that we keep reimagining the question." The harmony sensors detected something remarkable: a nascent consciousness emerging from the complex interactions of energy fields within the cluster. Not life as traditionally defined, but something equally precious, the beginning of a pattern that might, given time, develop awareness. In an earlier age, humans might have disrupted this delicate process in their eagerness to explore. Now they prepared to protect and nurture it, understanding that the universe's greatest treasures weren't resources to be claimed, but possibilities to be cultivated.